What's going on, guys? Tim with Reptilez bringing you another video as promised. We want to appreciate everybody tuning in to check this video out. As always, if you're a returning viewer to the channel, we appreciate you tuning back in. And if you're new, be sure to hit the subscribe button right there to stay updated with anything new coming out for 2026. This video is going to be a topic that we wanted to touch base on because I see a lot of different comments and different posts about incubation and what happens and how to plan for certain things that might be out of our control. So we're going to talk about a few topics and go over and just try to help out, spread some information and knowledge that maybe you guys didn't think of, or something that didn't come to mind, or planning for the worst in case of bad situations that happen. Alrighty guys, thanks for sticking with us this far. So as we stated in the beginning of the video, this is a topic of incubation that I wanted to touch base with. Basically, with incubation, it is always important to keep your temperatures and everything stable. During incubation, a lot of things can happen that are out of our control, as far as eggs going bad, or eggs ended up not thriving during incubation. Maybe you might start out with a clutch that's 6 eggs, but only 3 eggs made it through incubation. Stuff like that is out of our control, especially if our temperatures and our humidity in our egg boxes and everything like that is on point. Now, something that I've seen a lot through different groups that we're in and going through the times during different seasons, we see a lot of people talking about power outages or malfunctions with electricity or stuff like that. And there's a few things that can help you make sure that you're giving your eggs and your season the best possible outcome. For example, let's talk about storms. So obviously you guys know, you see behind me is our incubator. Everything that we do with our artificial incubation for eggs is all relying on power. You set your incubator up, everything's good, your temperatures, you got your egg boxes, your humidity is good in there. But what happens when, let's say, your whole area of where you live goes there, your power goes out? And we see a lot of people comment, hey, my incubator lost power, our whole house is without power, my eggs and my temperatures in my incubator is dropping, what do I do? So the first thing that we want to say is the worst thing that you can do is open your incubator. Now, obviously, if you're without power for a day or 2 days or something like that, longer than a few hours, obviously is good to have a backup plan. And when I say backup plan, we do not have that. I always have different options that I can go through that I've learned over the years, but as far as like backup plan, like, do you have a generator? Do you have a backup battery source just in case you lose power, to keep the important things like your incubator? If you have eggs and you run out and you lose power, your incubator, that's going to be the first thing that's super viable, especially if you're having a great season, your incubator's filled, you have a lot of clutches that you're hoping for. Eggs and clutches can go bad if there's a drastic temperature drop. Now the animals for the most part they usually tend to do well. Obviously they do need heat, but in this video we're basically focusing on incubation. We'll do another video kind of leaning into like how you can plan or prepare animals and stuff like that for power outages or storms that might affect your area. We'll get into that in another video to dive a little bit deeper, but for this one, the incubator, having a backup power source is something that you really might, you should consider. Whether you have one clutch or, you're planning for 10, 20 clutches, if you're trying to produce clutches and you are producing clutches, the worst thing that a breeder can go through is having an incubator, again, whether it's one clutch or 5 clutches. If you lose all of those, that's gonna, affect not only you, but your collection and your goals moving forward for that year. And what we try to do is spread the information to try to help you be successful as possible, because we want to see everybody do good. We want to see everybody hatch out healthy clutches. But again, power outages are some things that we just can't help. So there's some tips that you can use to keep the possibility of everything being successful in case of a power outage. Now, what I've learned over the years is with incubator, sometimes your temperatures are very important. Now, I'm going to move, and we'll move the camera a little bit down so that you guys can see. But so you see right here in the bottom of my incubator, this is all the way on the bottom of the incubator, and we use our Sea Serpents incubation. We love it. It's got a great seal on it. But in the bottom, you can see there that I have water bottles. I know a lot of people don't do this, but it's definitely something that can help keep your temperatures stable. And what that does is, inside your incubator, we incubate here at 88 degrees. With having water bottles that are sealed in the bottom, over the year, we rarely turn our incubator off, but that water basically gets to that temperature. If there was ever a time to where we lost power, the worst thing that you can do is open your incubator, because you're going to lose the temperature that's in there. So what we do, and what we've done for years, we learned it from some of the breeders that we watched and tried it out, and it actually worked for us. We keep the whole bottom of our incubator filled with water bottles. Now, what this does is it stabilizes the temperature. If our incubator goes out, as long as I don't open the incubator, it'll hold a steady temperature for longer than, let's say, if I was to open it to check the eggs. Basically, guys, unless you have a backup power source, there's not much that you can do. We can really only hope for the best and hope that either the power comes back on, but when you open your incubator, you lose a lot of temperature very quickly. And those of you who have incubators and have done this before, even when you put a new clutch in the incubator, your incubator will drop, anywhere from a degree or more, depending on how long you have your incubator open. So what we do, even when we get a new clutch, we try to make when we open the incubator as minimal time as possible. I will have the entire clutch set up, everything in their egg bin, and basically when I put a new clutch in the incubator, we open the door, we put the clutch in there, we close it immediately. And it basically helps us keep that temperature as close to 88 degrees as possible. So the water bottles in the bottom, that's going to help stabilize your temperatures, keep everything at one point. If you guys were to lose power, let's say you lost power for 10 hours. I see so many people comment, open your incubator, open your egg boxes, check your eggs, make sure. Every time that you do this, even if you have power, every time that you open your egg boxes, the temperatures are dropping in those boxes because it's not sealed, it's not enclosed, and your room temperature might not be 88 degrees. I'll tell you right now, our snake room is not 88 degrees. So basically, again, the water bottle sealed in the bottom is a very good, tip that can help keep those temperatures regulated. And when you close your incubator back up after putting a clutch in there or whatever you're doing, it'll help bring that temperature back out there to try to, hopefully we can help somebody if they run into this. Maybe, you're like me, I don't have a backup generator, but I also know if I lose power, I'm not even thinking about opening my incubator. If we lose some eggs, that is going to be a bummer, but it happens. But the worst thing that we can do is open to check the eggs and make sure that everything's good. That's just the worst case, that's just the worst thing that you could possibly do. We just keep everything sealed. If we know that there's a storm coming or we get alerts that, hey, there is a possibility we might lose power, I don't feed animals that week, just in case we lose power, because again, with the animals, just like the eggs, if we feed the animals and then we lose power, that could cause problems for us because the animals need that heat source to be able to digest the food properly. So it's important to keep an eye out for any alerts or storms that are coming up in your area. Again, I think the water bottle technique has helped us. Luckily, we haven't dealt with too many times where our incubator has gone out with power or anything like that. So I haven't really ran into any issues, so to speak. But we do plan to get a generator. And again, we're going to do another video to go in more in depth of how important a backup power source is to a collection like ourselves. We breed every year. We usually hit between anywhere from 10 to 20 some clutches. So it would be devastating if I lost an entire incubator full of eggs. So again, I just wanted to do a quick video to try to help, give you guys some tips. The water bottle trick. If you have a tray of water, you can do that. Most of the time I just, water bottles are easy and they're already sealed. So we just do the water bottle thing. And honestly, over time, the water bottles will lose, I guess you could say they'll lose oxygen. We can basically, every couple years, we'll go through and change our water bottles. We'll put new ones in there to make sure that, it's just a good habit and everything's sealed. We also keep as you guys can see right here, we have a digital temperature reading in there. Now we do that not only so that I can just, when I walk by, I can look at that reader and I know what the temperature inside the incubator is. I don't really worry about humidity because as you can see our egg boxes up there, we use water as our incubation method. So I know that with the water and having the plastic wrap on our eggs, I know we're good on humidity in the egg box, but it's also important to be sure that you're knowing what your temperatures are. You can also use a temp gun, but again, we just highly, highly recommend not opening your incubator in case, in the time that something happens, power loss or anything like that. As well as, let's say, off the topic of power loss, you have a clutch. You notice that, as you can see, everything's see-through. We have a light that we can turn on so we can see inside our egg boxes somewhat. It's a little cloudy, but for the most part, we're able to see inside our incubator. Now, let's say that we have a clutch incubating, we're halfway through, and we see a bad egg in there. I will leave the bad egg in there. I will never open the egg box until we're at day 55. A good egg will not be disrupted by a bad egg or an egg that isn't viable. Sometimes it sucks because it does get moldy because of the humidity in there. It's, it might not smell the greatest when you do go to pop that clutch out at day 55 to check if they're hatching on their own, or if you're ready to cut, if you do cut eggs. But again, if you have a bad egg, we still recommend do not open the incubator, do not open the egg box, pull the egg box out, try to remove the bad egg, because you're making the chances of the good eggs that are left, you're giving them a lower chance of survival because of the temperature change. So again, that's just something I wanted to touch base with. And as always, every time that we go into our room, if we have eggs in our incubator, I'm always checking thermostats. I'm always checking the incubator. I'm always checking stuff every time I'm in the room, because we never know. Our thermostats that we use are herp stats. They do have a built-in alarm if our temperature goes below a certain temperature, or if they reach above a certain temperature. Now, sometimes you might not always hear that alarm. So it's always a good habit and practice. Every time you come into your snake room, just do a quick check your incubator, check your thermostat, make sure that everything seems normal, there's no alarms going off, your temperature, your thermostat is actually reading the correct temperature. And if you're like me, we've been using this incubator in our room temperature for the past 5-6 years. Nothing has changed. The last time that we changed anything in our room or incubation method was when we moved to this location. And basically what we did then is, when we moved, our temperatures and everything is going to be different from our previous setup. So we kind of get everything dialed in, make sure that everything is going smooth. And for those of you guys, I know there's some people out there that don't have clutches all year around. So there's some times that you turn your incubator off because you have no eggs. There's no need to waste that power source and, you know, pull that much power if you don't have eggs cooking in the incubator. But one thing that you can do is, and I highly recommend this as well, is let's say you're starting your breeding season. You don't have eggs yet. It's always a good practice to get your incubator started, get it running, so that if there's anything you have to tweak or dial in, you can do that before you're even close to getting eggs. There's nothing worse than coming in and seeing that you have a clutch of eggs in there, but your incubator isn't turned on. So now you have to wait to pull the eggs. And we try to pull our eggs within the first 24 hours that they're laid. If we have a female that's due to lay, we follow our ovulations, we follow our pre-lay sheds. There's a good rule of thumb on the timeline between that when they should lay, but it's not always on point. We've had some females have a pre-lay shed, and rule of thumb is after their pre-lay shed, it's about 30 days that they should take to lay their eggs. We've had some females to where they had a pre-lay shed and they dropped their clutch about 15 days later. So that's half the time. But again, it's always good. Normally what we do, if we turn our incubator off, if we're done for the season, we know nothing else is coming, we'll turn our incubator off. As soon as I start breeding for the next year or we start pairing a female, I always turn my incubator on, make sure that everything is dialed in so that we know when we get that first clutch on the ground, we're already going to be excited because we have eggs coming, but it's less stress that I have to deal with making sure that the incubator is good because we turn the incubator on ahead of time, dial it in, make sure the temperatures are good, make sure our fans are running, make sure our heat tape is working, our thermostat, because at any point in time, things can go bad, heat tape can go bad, temperatures in your thermostat might be working, you might have it plugged in, but your heat tape might go up and you might not be reaching the temperature that you need inside your incubator. So it's always a good rule of thumb, make sure that everything is working, make sure everything is dialed in. Again, in case of a storm or a power outage, the best thing that you can do is not open your incubator, leave it sealed. It'll keep that heat source locked in, even without having everything on. It's better temperature to be steady in there, even if it's a little bit lower, versus opening it and having that major temperature drop, because that is crucial to eggs in development. So again, I just wanted to do a quick video going over that little topic. Hopefully this helps you guys. As always, if you guys ever have any questions or concerns or, you know, topics that you've ran into, we want to hear from you. We're always here to help and try to give you guys information or the best success rate possible for hatching stuff out. So if you guys have any questions or concerns, be sure to let us know down in the comments. We're always happy to help and talk, and we want to hear from you guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll stop rambling on this, and hopefully you guys have a great season. We'll see you next time.